Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Talk Richmond. I'm your host, Jim Millard, and in this week's episode I'm talking to the Harlequins, the professional English rugby union team whose home ground is the Twickenham Stoop. Joining me from the Quins is Peter Cooper, Head of Operations, and later on we will be talking to Quins professional rugby player Tom Lauday. We will be talking about the process of turning the Stoop into a mass vaccination centre and what this has meant for the Harlequins players. So, first of all, hello Peter, welcome to Talk Richmond.
Hello Councillor, thank you for having me.
It's a great pleasure. Peter, it's fascinating to know. I mean, the Stoop in Twickenham, I understand, seats 14,816 spectators. Am I right?
That is very correct. Yes, very accurate.
And it obviously hasn't seen anything like these numbers in a very long time now, sadly, very unfortunately. Instead, though, the ground recently became a high-capacity COVID-19 vaccination centre to help the NHS deliver the biggest immunisation programme in its history. So, Peter, as Head of Operations, you must have played quite a big part in organising this transformation. And I wanted to know more about this. Did the NHS request the use of the Stoop, and how did you have to prepare?
Yes, I did. I mean, if we sort of perhaps start back, we've got a long-standing relationship with the NHS as we use the site, or have done very regularly, for blood donation for a number of years now. And the relationship very early on in lockdown, sort of last March, there was a request by them for us to sort of keep the facility open so that we could kind of continue to help them facilitate that part of their operation. And from conversations around that developed into actually the plasma program, which was a program to sort of aid in the development of the vaccine. And on the success of that then came further conversations around how we might be really able to support the vaccination effort and use the site for that. I think the sort of the unique perhaps opportunity for us is, as you've sort of mentioned already, that we're not really open and we're not running operations as we would do normally, and we aren't welcoming those spectators in. But further to that, the conversations with the NHS very quickly moved into understanding what sort of level of support that they needed, really. And I think as a sports ground that has on-site facilities teams, has access to stewarding companies that can help with people management, that we can very quickly change or put in infrastructure to help.
Yes, absolutely. And it must have been a lot of work. I mean, what specific changes did you have to make?
Listen, it's just very, very, very minimal sort of power requirements for equipment. There's a lot of signage and information, space markers, and if anyone's familiar with the A316, you'll see a lot of signage directing people to the right areas. And again, just making sure that we manage the space and the flow around how people kind of come into the car park, and then providing them with support of getting into the centre, making sure that it's all clearly identified, that we've got sort of registration areas with hand sanitizer, and have all the facilities available for people to come in and feel safe. And obviously there's an amount of considerations around how and where people queue and what space is needed to be available, and how we set up those rooms sort of adequately to achieve sort of the clinical requirements, but also then the wider or broader considerations around sort of social distancing, and how, if we are bringing in the increased volumes of people, that can happen in a safe manner.
Yes, well, it's quite clearly an amazing scale. And as you say, bringing in these volumes, do you know how many people have been vaccinated at the centre so far?
Yeah, we've just recently hit the 10,000 mark.
Wow.
So a very opportune time to be discussing this, as we reached the 10,000 mark at the back end of last week, which was fantastic. And we probably will see a real increase in that number over the coming weeks, as we've been probably on average seeing about 500 people come through a day. But from yesterday, so we have upscaled that to about 1,000 people coming through the vaccination centre now. So we've doubled the effort, or the team over there that have doubled the effort, and essentially we'll be looking at consistently rolling out that number of vaccines every day now moving forward. And aside from match days where we do close the facility, they are looking to open 7 days a week and run an operation 8 till 8 and really try and maximise the amount of people that we can have through that facility. So we'll probably see that number jump up very, very quickly in the coming weeks.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And without the stoop, what are the players and staff having to do differently?
So day to day, most of the staff are continuing to work at home with just a small team on site. And then we're able to kind of maintain that separation when the players come in for their team runs. And again, we've barriered off aspects of the stadium so that players can continue with their usual match day preparations, as it were. And it's so far, touch wood, Councillor, it's working well. And we'd be hopeful that we can really continue that relationship through the summer and make sure that we're able to support it really and sort of see those numbers increase as we go through the whole sort of vaccination effort.
Absolutely, and I'm sure a lot of residents listening will be agreeing that we really hope to see that. So I just wanted to ask also about the Harlequins Foundation, which I'm aware does a lot of work with communities in the local area, and obviously some of these projects might be on hold temporarily due to the lockdown. But can you tell us about the foundation and a bit more about the projects it delivers?
Yeah, sure. The foundation really is about using the club as a catalyst for social change, and we really want to make a positive difference within the community. They see that there is a power in sport and it can be used to drive sort of positive change, and they sort of focus in three main areas of skills, well-being and inclusion. And really the Learn Grow partnership, perhaps one of the key initiatives is really about the development of children through physical activity, and with a real focus on having fun and trying to improve their physical and mental well-being. There's been a number of programs that we've kind of had to move online, just as a number of people have had to. And we've been running physical activity programs where we've been doing sessions. They've recorded them live at the stoop, and then young people are able to sort of engage and go along with those. We've been developing or been hosting a series of webinars around equality, diversity and inclusion. And we sort of recently celebrated the anniversary of our Pride match, which focused on the LGBTQ role in sport and how we can represent that community within the game. There's been support for mental health and workshops based around that. We had offered our vehicles to deliver hot meals to vulnerable residents within the community as well, whilst continuing sort of a number of our education and employability programs.
Fantastic. That sounds really amazing, I have to say, and it will be great to revisit this when life returns to some kind of normal. In terms of getting spectators back into the stoop, when do you think this is likely to happen, if you can say that? And what measures will Quins have to take to support their return?
Our primary focus is around that May 17th. From that point, we are on the understanding that we could potentially have up to 4,000 spectators in the stadium. And that's really where we're focused on, and that would sort of include our last two fixtures of the season, or the regular season, against Bath and Newcastle. The planning has been sort of really intensive and as you can imagine has sort of brought in a whole new array of differing sort of considerations for us. And I mean, really for me, it starts with our safety advisory group. Again, it's a sort of a very established group for every sports stadia to have, that's chaired by the council. And we've been hugely supported by that group with our plans, and we take our considerations to them, and there has been a real collaborative effort to really ensure that what we're proposing and how we would look to manage the return of spectators in a really safe way. We were obviously really fortunate to host a pilot last September, which really tested a lot of the initiatives that we were looking to adopt on these matches, and I think by all it was seen as a huge success, and we continue really to sort of build on those. But perhaps just to kind of give you a bit of detail into some of that, really, there's a lot of it is around that communication piece early on, and advising sort of spectators or our members what they can expect when they arrive, and us defining a spectator code of conduct and how we need them to adhere to the protocols that we have in place, whether that be things like wearing face masks throughout their day, listening to the instructions of stewards, following sort of one-way flows around the ground, and ensuring that they understand the changes in the match day experience, and that they come fully briefed on what to expect. And listen, it broadens out to considerations around how do people get to the stadium, speaking with local transport providers around the capacities on networks. And again, sort of underneath all of this and within the communications with our safety advisory group, it is about limiting the impact of local residents in the area and just providing that reassurance that we're going through all these steps.
Well, thank you very much for sharing all that. It is a great insight into what you've been doing, and best of luck. So now, Tom, thank you very much for joining us on Talk Richmond.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to talk to you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been playing with Quins and what position do you play in?
So I'm a back rower. I usually play 6 or 8. They're my kind of preferred positions. And I've been at Quins. This is my second season with Quins. Before Harlequins, I was at Exeter Chiefs for a couple of seasons, and they picked me up through playing rugby at Exeter University. That's kind of how I got into the professional game.
Fantastic. And obviously, it's been great to be in Twickenham, and then this happens, and it's been quite a change. We heard from Peter about all the work that's been done turning the Stoop into a max vaccination centre. What has that meant for you and your teammates?
To be completely honest, that hasn't changed a lot for us. We train down in Guildford,
okay.
So there's not a lot of time that we do spend at the Stoop. We usually do kind of a short team run there the day before a game, but the Stoop turning into that vaccination centre, which is obviously great for the local community, hasn't really impacted us at all.
Oh, brilliant. And the key question, I think, is it odd playing rugby without a crowd watching?
Yeah, it is strange, but it's been the norm now for quite a long period of time. There were probably 8 or 9 games last year that were played behind closed doors, and there's probably been about 15 this year, something like that. So it is pretty normal, which is a bit of a shame, to be honest, because big stadiums, quite echoey. The crowd plays such an important factor in certain areas of the game. So we're all looking forward to getting everyone back in and cheering us on again.
But it's great that you're able to play the games anyway, that they're carrying on, and that's really important for people to be able to watch and remotely. And what about the impact of COVID more generally? Have you or any of your teammates experienced COVID, and how has it how else has it impacted your life as a professional sports person?
I haven't tested positive. However, during the first lockdown, I did lose my sense of taste and smell for 4 or 5 days, but at that time they weren't considered symptoms. So I'm not entirely sure if I've had it. I'd probably leaned closer towards yes than no, but as I said, since the testing program's come in, I haven't tested positive, but I think we've had 2 positive tests since they've started testing week in, week out, which is great. Shows just how much hard work the players are doing kind of outside of rugby to make sure that they're being as safe as possible. But from what I've heard, it's the players that have had it, have had a tough few days, and have been pretty tired and haven't really been kind of back to full energy and proper fitness for a little while after they kind of get over it.
And I see from my notes you're 27 years young, is that correct?
That's right, yeah. So
it's unlikely you'll have been invited for your vaccine just yet, but when it comes, will you be getting your vaccine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm not going to turn it down.
Good.
I'm definitely not a anti-vaxxer, and if it's going to protect people around me, then yeah, all for it.
And I guess it's all part of helping us get back to a bit more normality and maybe starting to be able to have crowds again and
exactly.
play live sport would be fantastic.
Yeah, bigger picture stuff, definitely.
What are you most looking forward to about the changes that can happen when we get our vaccinations?
Just going for a beer with a few mates. Just really looking forward to that. All the vaccination centres are doing such a great job and they're kind of contributing to making the UK a safer place. So, when that happens and when it's the right time, just meeting up with a few mates that I haven't seen for a long time, going down the pub, having a few beers and as we've talked about previously, getting fans back in the stadium and for them to be making a bit of racket.
Yeah, it's all part of that, isn't it? So finally, I just wanted to ask, for any non-rugby fans out there who might not know how you're doing this season. How's it going?
It's actually, we've kind of turned it around. It's going really well at the moment. The first half of the season was fairly rocky. Ups and downs, couldn't really find consistent performances. But since there was a short break in January where the European fixtures were postponed until a later date, but potentially cancelled. And so we had 2 weeks. We kind of regrouped. Our director of rugby at the time moved away from the club. Billy Millard's come in and kind of taken over as a general manager, and yeah, the guys in charge of
Billy Millard.
Yeah.
Oh, good. My name's Jim Millard. Maybe he's like a distant cousin.
Mate, he's an Aussie.
Oh, mate.
Any Aussie blood?
Probably
man.
not. No, probably not. All right.
So yes, since that's happened, we've managed to string some consistent performances together. We won 4 on the bounce, and yeah, kind of out of the last 7 games, we've won 5.
Wow.
So which is really good, and picked up losing bonus points in the losing games. So haven't kind of lost them by big margins or anything. So yeah, there's a real buzz around the place. There's a lot of confidence spreading through the squad, which is great, and we really feel like we can do something pretty special this year. So hopefully we kind of continue on the path that we're going down, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Brilliant. The mighty Quins.
Yeah.
We're all very proud of you, obviously, as a local team, and I know that a lot of people listening will be wishing you all the best, and all looking forward to, yeah, as we say, getting back to it and doing that in a way that's safe and that works. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
It's been great speaking to Peter and Tom. It's clear that an incredible amount of work went into setting up the Stoop as a vaccination centre, and that this work continues whilst we work through the vaccination programme. And, on behalf of the whole borough, I'd like to thank all the amazing NHS staff, volunteers, and all those at the Quins and the Stoop who have helped to set up the site and are keeping it running. And of course, good luck to the Harlequins for the rest of the season. If listeners have any questions or feedback or encouragement for the Quins, do email us on talk@richmond.gov.uk. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do leave a review. Give us a good score. I'll try not to disappoint. Oh, sorry about that. And subscribe even, why not? It helps others find the podcast. I'm Jim Millard. Thanks for listening.